The it factor, a battering ram. Let's hear more about the Nittany Lion perspective on Beau Pribula right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And later in the show, I want to talk about what is obviously the play of fall camp so far by none other than true freshman receiver Donovan Alubade. He's really turning the hype up a notch. But you know what? We're going to start the program by talking to Zach Sako of Locked On Nittany Lions about none other than Beau Pribula. So let's do that right now. All right, joining me now is Zach Sako from Locked On Nittany Lions to, of course, talk about the legacy of Kerry Collins and Kajana Carter. No, obviously we're going to talk about Beau Pribula, who has been the presumptive Missouri quarterback really all offseason. Eli Drinkwitz keeps saying it's a real competition with Sam Horn, so I thought this would be the perfect time to talk to Zach here. Quite simply, Zach, what kind of quarterback do you think Missouri is getting here in Beau Pribula?
Yeah, and first and foremost, thanks for having me on the show. Beau Pribula is a quarterback that's always been described as having the it factor. The immediate comparisons were to Trace McSorley. I mean, McSorley was a great college football quarterback and is going to go down as one of the best QBs in Penn State history. So when Beau Pribula gets comparisons there, even though we never saw him truly materialize at Penn State, and he would have been Penn State's starting quarterback going into the season had Aller gone off to the NFL a year early. So it's because Drew Aller came back that Beau Pribula, and this wasn't even Beau Pribula's, it wasn't his first decision necessarily, or it wasn't a decision that he didn't like. And let me explain that. He wanted to be at Penn State. And I'm not saying that he's not going to give his all to Missouri. But, and I think he wanted to stay at Penn State still with the idea in mind that, okay, Aller's here. Penn State and James Franklin actually encouraged him to go to the transfer portal. That if you want to maximize your college career, you got to go somewhere else. And unfortunately, it's not going to be at Penn State. I'm glad that he lands in the SEC. I'm glad that he lands at an opportunity where he can showcase his skill set. But he's your traditional dual threat QB. You got to account for his legs. I would say he is a runner first and a passer second. He uses his legs to set up his arm, and that's okay if you can maximize it. So think of Pribula as an extra running back in the offense. He does not have a bad arm by any means. He is accurate, but definitely does need, that dual threat capability to help him out in the aerial attack. That's fine, but you're getting a player that is a leader, is tough. He's a battering ram. He didn't have any injury issues when he was at Penn State, and I know he would come in periodically with Wildcat packages, so we didn't see him in a lot of full games. But the way that Pribula would throw his body around, he'd just pop right back up. This guy's tough, and that's going to inspire his teammates around him.
So you mentioned Trace McSorley there. What is it about McSorley that reminded you of Pribula?
That's the it factor. It's You knew that Pribula was going to give you a spark, whether it was in a small capacity or a large capacity. And before we hit record here, we talked about the Wisconsin game. That was the fact that he could come off the bench ice cold and in a game where Wisconsin at least had momentum. I think Penn State was always going to win that game, whether Aller was in for a full 4 quarters or Pribula finished the game the way he did because Aller got banged up. Wisconsin still felt like they had something there at that moment in time, right before Pribula went in. So with Pribula coming off the bench ice cold and just giving a spark, it's that, and Trace McSorley was always able to give Penn State a spark when they needed it most. Pribula, you could at least see that. It wasn't all the time because, again, the volume wasn't there. He doesn't have all the game footage to justify that, but in the limited opportunities that he did have, 10 yards, just a big play, the energy, the emotion, the way that guys would rally around him. And then you would just hear through conversations, through press conferences, interviews, just how people did look up to Beau Pribula, even though he was QB2. That's what he's giving you at the end of the day. It's the spark. It's the leadership. It's being able to rally the troops. The it factor. I don't know how you coach it. I don't know how you bring it out of people, but he has the it factor.
So you were saying he's mostly a run-first quarterback, or at least that's what he's shown so far in limited action with the Nittany Lions. What I'm curious about, you say he's a battering ram in the running game. One thing I saw a little bit encouragingly, I thought, in that Wisconsin second half there, where I believe the Nittany Lions did trail by 3 there at halftime when Pribula came in. But I noticed that he was, in a couple key moments that led to Penn State touchdowns, he was willing to hang in there in the pocket for to let the play develop where it needed to. Do you think that toughness translates to within the pocket too?
Oh yeah, definitely. It's the fearlessness that Pribula has, whether that's running the football. And again, it's not that people know the mobile quarterbacks that they struggle to throw. They're not like he can throw, but definitely, let his legs help him out. Let that element in the ground game give him some more wide open windows to throw to. Because he's not going to pick apart your defense. I think the biggest question about Pribula's game is, can he lead that game-winning drive? And with the it factor, yeah, you would think so. But by picking apart a secondary, that's what I don't know about when it comes to Pribula. Is he going to be able to drop the dimes consistently when the clock's against you? You're not going to be able to, yeah, sure, you can extend plays and you'll be able to scramble and pick up a first down here and there. But when that 2-minute drill is truly on and you got to win with your arm, can he do it? And that's the biggest question I have about Pribula. It's never going to be about toughness. It's never going to be about doing more of what's asked of you. He's never going to, be afraid of a big hit, a big play, a big moment type of situation. That is what you're getting from Pribula all the time, not just some of the time.
So basically it sounds like, obviously I didn't watch every snap that Penn State played last year like you did, but it sounds like when Pribula came in, other than the Wisconsin game when he had to play the entire second half, I would say he was kind of a gadget quarterback. Is that a fair way to put it? And what type of plays was he asked to run, number one? And number two, were there any moments when he was actually asked to play quarterback instead of playing point guard, if you will?
He was never really asked to play quarterback just because there was never, outside of the Wisconsin game. Watch the Wisconsin. If Missouri fans want an understanding of what Beau Pribula will give you, probably at a higher level, because he's going to be better. He's going to be smarter, faster, stronger, all of that. Just another year under your belt of college football. You are going to get a better version of that game against Wisconsin, and hopefully for a full season, right? So, yeah, I think that's a fair assessment to say that, hey, he played point guard. It was a handoff. It was a read option. It was a trick play. It was meant to change. Drew Aller's giving you the fastball, and you bring in Beau Pribula with the changeup. So it was really for Andy Kotelnicki, Penn State's offensive coordinator, as a way just to keep the defense guessing, keep them on their toes. But that's, again, what Pribula can do, is the trickery. It's, use him how you want, as a Swiss Army knife. And I think that just opens up more windows for, I don't know Missouri's offensive coordinator, but Drinkwitz can definitely scheme up plan. He can develop game plans throughout the week to help maximize Pribula with his arm, with his legs, with that trickery, with that toughness. It's all of those things combined that make him a very good college quarterback.
So, Zach, you and everybody else around Penn State at the moment, and really all off season, has said all positive things about Pribula. I am just curious, though, at the very moment, hey, you're in the middle of college football playoff preparation. When you first heard about Pribula transferring, what was your first reaction?
I mean, it was, I went live immediately, and I think hundreds of people tuned in because it was a big deal. This wasn't something that Penn State fans, and again, Beau Pribula, necessarily wanted to happen. Transfer portal timing, the NCAA, is kind of losing control of its sport week in, week out situation, or just over the course. You just see bad decision here. And then one of those things is the way that the transfer portal is set up, because Pribula should have been a part of that playoff run for Penn State. Maybe, who knows? The difference is 3 points against Notre Dame. So who knows if Pribula being on the sideline helps with a play or two that just gives Penn State that extra spark in a game that is decided by literally inches, right? We all know that as football fans and football spectators. So Pribula going into the portal, it's justified. It was justified because of the way that it's set up. Again, Penn State and James Franklin, head coach, when he needs to win, said to his quarterback, hey, it is better for you to go into the transfer portal now than try to wait and get situated somewhere else, because you need to go build that rapport. You need to go through a spring football practice. It is going to benefit you more by getting there in January as opposed to May or June when you are a quarterback. It's different. Penn State picked up a wide receiver, a linebacker, sure. But when it's quarterback, you got to be there for the start of the offseason if you intend to be a starter. And that's what Beau Pribula is. He is a Power 4 starter at a school, and it's going to be Missouri.
Yeah, it just seems like Pribula, and I'm certainly not the first person to say this, but was just sort of the victim is maybe the wrong word, but I'll just say it, the victim of a bad system, the victim of circumstances, if you will. Yeah, obviously he didn't want to leave the team right before the college football playoff, but obviously, especially with not only just in terms of playing time, but dollars and cents too, you can't just sit around forever, or the market's going to move past you on a bunch of different levels. So I think you make a great point there, Zach. And hey, thanks again for taking some time for me here today. And you know what? There's a non-zero chance Missouri and Penn State could meet up in the CFP this year. So what the heck, if that happens, I'll be talking to you then, no doubt about that. Again, Zach Sako, you can find him on X. You can find Locked On Nittany Lions on YouTube and wherever you listen to audio podcasts. Thanks again, Zach.
Oh, thank you. And man, putting that Penn State Missouri potential matchup in the playoff, Drew Aller versus Beau Pribula, that's a lot of college football fans, I think, would enjoy that one. But thanks for having me on the show.
A rematch of the 1970 Orange Bowl. Let's speak it into existence, Zach. And after one day of practice highlights, well, that seems like a good time to completely overreact, right? So let's overreact to an incredible play by Donovan Olubade in practice, but also seriously, why this young man's got a real chance to have some big-time playing time here early in his Missouri career. So let's talk about that in just a little bit. First, though, it's time to fuel up and turn it up with a 5-hour energy transfusion. It brings the bold grape, ginger, and lime flavor with your favorite golf drink. And let's be honest, some days on the course or off of it, you need that extra boost just to stay sharp and energized. And I remember one time out at the old Country Club of Missouri, hole 16, well, I needed a little bit of extra energy after smashing my drive. I had an 8-iron left in my hand, and you know what? I don't know, just left that one out to the right, but luckily it knocked off of a tree into the middle of the green. I made like a 9-foot putt for eagle. So golf is all about good times with good people and sometimes ridiculous times as well. And if you go to 5hourenergy.com today, that is the number 5hourenergy.com. You can use my promo code LOCKEDONGOLF to receive 20% off your first order. This offer is only valid until September 30th on one order and cannot be used with other promotions. The code is not good on subscription orders. Whether you're meeting up with friends or trying to turn 18 holes into 36, get the energizing boost you need to power through. Order transfusion-flavored 5-hour energy shots today. So even though Missouri has obviously lost Luther Burden III to the Chicago Bears this offseason, it looks like Missouri's got a pretty proven commodity in Kevin Coleman, who transferred from Mississippi State, previously played at Louisville, among other stops in his well-traveled college career. So I think we know what we have in the St. Louis product in Coleman. On the outside, though, I think it's a little bit different of a question. I think all of you everydayers know that I'm a huge fan of Marquise Johnson and think that he has more in his bag than just simply running go routes all day. Although he's pretty darn good at those go routes, I think he can do more than that. I think we saw it in the Music City Bowl. I think we'll see it again this season in 2025. On the other side, you've got Josh Manning, who the Missouri coaching staff really likes a lot. I'm not saying I don't like him. I'm just simply saying I haven't seen very much from Josh Manning so far. A lot of that is just hype and potential at a certain point. Hopefully this is the season that Josh Manning has a big-time breakout season for the Tigers. I think a lot of people think that's going to happen. But like with Marquise Johnson and Manning, those are relatively unproven commodities. And regardless of how good those two guys are, I think there's a real opportunity for Donovan Olubade, the true freshman from Florida, to make an impact this season, maybe even start. I think there's even an outside chance he could be one of the number one guys on the outside for Missouri this season. I think much more likely, though, he's probably in a rotation and maybe gets 15 to 20 snaps a game. I think based on everything I've heard, based on talking to Brian Smith, who follows the Florida area high school pipeline as close as certainly anybody I know, I just think he's got a real chance there. And going to IMG Academy, those kids tend to be more advanced than others. So his chances to play early, I think, are a real possibility. And I made mention, of course, in the tease there, Olubade just made an unbelievable one-handed catch in practice on a ball in the red zone from Beau Pribula, by the way. Throws it to Pribula's left. Olubade spins around spins with his right shoulder around, gets the ball, catches it with one hand, his right hand. This wasn't even a jump up and get it type of one-handed catch. This was a spin around and grab it with a 180 type of one-handed catch that you really don't see all that much, to be honest with you. So just shows once again that what a special type of athlete he is. At this point, I'd almost be surprised. Again, I'm not totally wanting to overanalyze just one impressive clip that Missouri put out on social media. By the way, you can find that on my Twitter feed if you would like, at Locked On Mizzou. I quote tweeted this clip that I'm talking about here. But again, just another example, though, of why I think Olubade's got a great chance to play early and often for Missouri this season. And on Missouri basketball, we do have a date now for the Kansas State exhibition game, October 24th, which is a Friday night at Mizzou Arena. One thing that's interesting about this, I would have assumed maybe in a perfect world that the Tigers would have liked to have had a Friday night exhibition before a Missouri home football game on the subsequent Saturday, the following day, of course. But obviously, I shouldn't say obviously, but that is not the case here, as the next day Missouri is going to travel to play in Nashville against the Vanderbilt Commodores in football. But maybe counterintuitively, this isn't the worst thing in the world, because I have to say, from my perspective, as somebody who goes to all of the Missouri home games, and when there's a Missouri away game, almost at the very least, I'm hosting people over at my house, something like that. I have a busy life during the week. Otherwise, really, since there's not a Missouri home game the next day for football, I think I might be more likely to attend the Kansas State game. Perhaps more likely. Really, though, since it's Kansas State, I was probably likely to attend it regardless of whether there was a Missouri home or away game. But it did make me think. I wonder how many Missouri fans, especially the local yokels, people in Columbia, Jeff City, Boonville, Ashland, the surrounding area, how many of these type of people are thinking, actually, maybe I will go to this basketball game on a Friday, since there's not a home game the next day. Don't have to worry about tailgating and what have you. Just curious on your thoughts on that one. Hit me up on everywhere on social media at Locked On Mizzou. And you know what? Our old buddy Chase Daniel, of course, one of the greats in Missouri history, now with a fledgling media career, has had a bit of a tough go of it lately. And I'll just say this: I think this proves that, once again, timing is just almost everything in life. So I'll explain exactly what I mean and what this has to do with Chase Daniel right after these quick words. So unfortunately, Chase Daniel's show on Fox Sports 1 called The Facility has been canceled. That news came out, well, about a week and a half ago, I think. And unfortunately, from my opinion, or from my perspective, I should say, that was a really good sports talk show that apparently no one watched. And when I say no one, I'll include myself in this. I did not end up watching the show all that much, even though I programmed it to record on my streaming DVR on DirecTV Stream there. So it was on my playlist. It's just one of those things, though, where, again, timing is everything. I think that's a show that 10, 15 years ago, certainly farther back than that, would have worked much better. But in a world where there's podcasts and YouTube and niche everything, well, niche just doesn't really work very well on traditional broadcast television. Because if you look at a show like The Facility, which in my opinion was, again, a really good show, a show that talked about X's and O's. It was Chase Daniel, LaShawn McCoy, Emmanuel Acho, and I believe James Jones, the former Packers wide receiver. Four guys, four former players who know the game and are pretty good broadcasters, in my opinion, too, have a good acumen for that. And a show where they didn't just yell at each other and, go with the first take type, Skip Bayless type of approach to television and sports broadcasting. But again, unfortunately, in my opinion, no one watched it because, simply put, the types of shows these days that do work on ESPN in the morning on FS1, well, I don't know that FS1 has found the formula that works yet, other than maybe Colin Cowherd. But it is stuff like First Take, where people are screaming and yelling at each other about the Cowboys and the Lakers every single day. Apparently, that's what works in that type of environment. Again, at least in the type of economic environment that they're in. See, this is the good news for Chase Daniel, because he's going to land on his feet and do just fine. Chase is already now doubling down on his YouTube page, doing those niche type of quarterback evaluations and X's and O's breakdowns that maybe don't appeal to a mass audience that you need on an ESPN or a Fox. But if you're doing 100,000 people per episode on YouTube, for example, and you're just Chase Daniel, you're just doing it yourself, you have no overhead other than that. Compare that to the Fox 1 Facility show where you had not just Chase, but three other big football player names too that are not coming cheap. You've got a whole staff of cameramen, lighting people, etc., producers, directors, every talent bookers, all of the above, versus, again, just Chase Daniel sitting in his office, or just John Miller sitting in his office in his home. The economics of that are not comparable. So the good news is, if you're searching for a niche audience, as I am with Locked On Mizzou, or as Chase Daniel appears to or can, well, that actually will work very, very well for him, in my opinion. I think it's obvious it's already working for him. So unfortunately, I thought The Facility was a really good show. Unfortunately, I didn't watch it all that much, so I was part of the problem here. I have to be honest with you. But that's because, quite simply, I listen to a lot of other podcasts, consume clips from social media like Chase puts out, quite honestly. So it's just interesting, the continuing changing landscape here of sports media and media in general, news media, everything else, movies, of course. There's been massive upheaval. I'll just tell you this, it's, of course, too bad to see that Chase Daniel got caught up in that through no fault of his own, in my opinion. I thought he did a great job with The Facility, but the good news is, this is just part of the new world I think we live in if you're in media. For the most part, you're just going to have to go with the flow, run toward daylight, and just try to figure out the new changes and how to adapt to them the best way you can. Kind of similar to how, well, what Eli Drinkwitz and the rest of college football is going to have to do as well. No doubt about that. So anyway, just wanted to go out on a positive note on what seemed like a negative story for one of our great Tigers. But you know what? Jay's still very, very early in his media career. I think he's going to figure it out and do just great and be incredibly successful. But you know what? We're pretty successful here on the Locked On Podcast Network here, I have to say. So thanks for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen today. For your second listen, check out another Locked On show called The Portal. Yes, the aforementioned Brian Smith has all the latest rumors, portal entries, signings. You got to find The Portal on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. So until next time, I'm John Miller. This has been Locked on Mizzou.